familiar face. He has been giving us his inside scoop to the URI Rams. Ben Kinch, WRIU's play-by-play general manager, senior at URI. Ben, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, happy to be here, Kate. I love being on with you guys at GoLocal. We're in for a good one tomorrow, that's for sure.
We are in for a good one tomorrow. Did you catch the PC game this afternoon?
I was able to watch a little bit of it, yeah. They had the availability for the Rhode Island and the Duke players while that was going on, so they had the games on in the media room, which is nice because you're able to see all the games that are going on while you're getting your work done. So I did get to see that game. Tough one for the Friars. They had a good season all year long. I think they far superseded everyone's expectations. You knocked off Xavier twice in a season. You knocked off Villanova once. So Ed Cooley had 5 NCAA bids in a row, despite only winning the one. Ed Cooley has that program in an upward trajectory.
Speaking of upward trajectory, then there was one. All eyes are on URI versus Duke, 2:40 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Let's take a little rewind because we didn't get the opportunity to talk with you after their win. Let's talk about the position that URI is in that you've seen from the last game before we look at the matchups with the Blue Devils.
Rhode Island's in a really good position right now. The best thing for me about the Oklahoma game on Thursday was they did a lot of key things down the stretch that they didn't do in games like that St. Joe's game in the A-10 tournament, or especially the Davidson game.
Okay.
They hit key free throws down the stretch. Cyril Langevin, who is north of a 50% free throw shooter, hit 4 key free throws down the stretch, and Fats Russell, who had a phenomenal game against freshman of the year in the NCAA, Trey Young, he hit his free throws down the stretch as well, and they also hit clutch shots and were able to lock people down defensively. So what has Rhode Island in such a great position, even better so than a week ago when they were still in postseason play in the A-10s, is they're executing perfectly. They're doing exactly what they need to do down the stretch, and that's why they're able to win in overtime, a game that probably shouldn't have even gone to overtime because that final shots by Stan Robinson hung on the rim for what felt like an hour until we finally went to overtime. But they stepped up. E.C. Matthews finally was able to get that March moment that he missed in that Oregon game last year, a very clutch three-pointer. So Rhode Island's in a very good position right now.
What will they need to improve upon, Ben, going into the game against the Blue Devils tomorrow? What will they have to tighten up that they can't afford to make any mistakes on to bring their A game to bring it to the Blue Devils?
So you need to tighten up on the guard play, which is obviously their strong suit. And the reason I don't say in the paint, which is where they're going to get beat, is because Duke has these incredible front court players. Marvin Bagley III is going to be a lottery pick. He's easily going in the top 5 in the NBA draft this year. He's the ACC Player of the Year and the Freshman of the Year. He's only the second player to ever hold both of those accomplishments in one season. The first was Jahlil Okafor in 2015. Another Duke player, so Duke knows what it's like to have a kind of player like this. But the way I stuck around and I saw that Iona Duke game right after the Rhode Island Oklahoma game, and the way he gets open offensively is not only a testament to the way Coach K runs his offense, but he's so quick for a big man. He's so athletic and agile, and he finds himself open in these situations where he gets himself perfect positions to score.
How is URI going to be able to defend against that? They have trouble with the pick and roll.
Yeah.
How is URI going to be able to step up to that?
Well, it's going to be tough. Andre Berry, the starter for Rhode Island, is not really a defensive big man. They put him in there for the offensive efforts. So it's really going to come down to really your lone big man defender in Rhode Island, and that's Cyril Langevin. Langevin has been really fantastic this season defending the ball in the low post, which is where Bagley gets a lot of his offense.
Yep.
He leads the team in blocks, does Langevin, so it's going to be a hard matchup for him. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you're talking literally one of the best players in the country coming into this game.
Yep.
But if you're going to tighten up, you need to bring the double team. So it's going to be Langevin and Robinson kind of collapsing down on Bagley anytime he gets out. And then that goes to the guards. Then you need to tighten up because somebody's going to be left open, so you need to get back on that three-point perimeter defense because Duke also loves to shoot the three ball.
You talk about the guard play as being important. What are the other key matchups between the Rams and the Blue Devils?
Well, Grayson Allen. He is the lone senior on this team, and actually I was able to ask Coach K a question, which was actually that by itself was pretty cool. But I asked Coach K, I said, Rhode Island brings in 5 seniors and Duke only brings in 1, and that's Grace Now. And so I asked him what that senior leadership does, and he said it means the world because so many of these kids for Duke are freshmen. Yesterday was their first NCAA game. They got the jitters out, but Grayson Allen's been there before. So the matchup you need to look at besides Bagley is Grayson Allen. He's scored 30 points multiple times this season. He's lethal from beyond the arc. So what I would expect is Rhode Island to put Fats Russell right in his lap.
Okay.
Because the job that he did yesterday on Trae Young, especially in the second half, I mean, Trae Young hit all 4 of his shots in the first half. He had 10 points going into halftime. And over the stretch of the next 10 minutes, he was completely taken out of his comfort zone, and that's because of the fast-paced, in-your-face play of Fats Russell. So if Fats can bring that kind of effort and intensity on defense against Grayson Allen, then they have a very good shot of limiting his ability from beyond the arc.
And he can go deep beyond the arc as well. I mean, how do you defend the deep 3?
Well, the deep 3 is tough. I mean, we've seen a lot of players so far, even in the game yesterday for URI. Jared Terrell hit a deep 3 ball to tie it up at 44 right from the center logo. So those real deep balls are tough to defend. But Rhode Island is one of the better defensive teams, especially around the perimeter in the country. They come in to tomorrow's game ranked at 78. So they know how to get there. They're quick guards. That's what helps them do that. Is the guards are so athletic and so quick that they're able to get to that matchup. And any team is not going to have a lot of time to get a quick shot off. So that's the reason I think Rhode Island's going to be able to lock up Grayson Allen, at least from deep. He's going to get his points. Him and Bagley, these guys have these consecutive streaks of double digits, so they're going to get their points. But it's about not letting them get deep into the 20s or deep into the 30s. It's about limiting, not exactly neutralizing.
And what are we going to see from the Rams offense?
Rams offense, you're probably going to see a lot of 3 balls because I would expect this to be a shootout because with the big trees, the defensive big men for Duke in the paint, you're not going to get a lot of easy opportunities driving to the basket. So you're going to need to utilize that screen at the top of the arc, and you're going to need to get guys like E.C. Matthews open. Fats is going to have to be able to shoot from 3, so's down, and then you really want to see Jared Terrell have a good performance because he starts off a little hot in these games, but then he starts to fizzle out in the second half. At least that's what we've seen in these last couple postseason games. But if you can get Jared Terrell shooting with efficiency from beyond the arc, along with a couple of these other Rhode Island players, then you're going to be in a pretty good position.
And so we're getting the breakdown of the game tomorrow, but there are some big names who are bullish on URI. Charles Barkley has them in his bracket. Talk with us about your reaction to that. People could see URI pulling off this upset.
It's almost exactly what you saw last year with Kenny the Jet Smith actually had Rhode Island beating Oregon. He called them at one point the hottest team in the tournament, and that's true. Rhode Island was riding, I think it was a 12 or a 13 win streak coming into the NCAAs last year. The win streak's not there, but this is a team that gained its momentum after stumbling a little bit, especially with that Oklahoma win. I mean, anytime you beat a national talent like Trae Young and a Power 5 school, you're going to have some momentum going in. And that's obviously a great win for the A-10. The players talked about that a little bit today. So they have some momentum coming in. But really, it's no shock. I mean, if you're a person or in an analyst who knows college basketball, then you really shouldn't be shocked that some of these guys are picking Rhode Island because they have that senior leadership and experience and these notable wins and a good resume that while they're not clearly the favorite versus Duke, you don't expect them to get blown out by 15 or 20 points. You would expect them to at least keep it close and have a fighting chance versus Duke. So it's nice to get this national exposure, but if you followed Rhode Island, you know that's been part of the game these last couple seasons.
So you mentioned being able to toss out a question to Coach K. What did we hear from Hurley today?
A lot of the questions were, at least at the beginning, were directed to the Hurley's connections with Duke basketball and Coach K. Obviously, Dan Hurley's brother, Bobby Hurley, played at Duke, and they talked a little bit about that NCAA tournament game, Duke versus Seton Hall, Bobby Hurley versus Dan Hurley. So that was a lot of fun. So a lot of that came up, and there were some laughs and some good memories that both coaches were able to share with the press. So that was really fun. But basically, he said Rhode Island is focused. He says the guys are not letting that Duke mystique come in, because a lot of the times when Duke's able to beat these opponents is because they're afraid of the name Duke. They know the 5 championships that Duke has. They know that they have one of, if not the best coach in the NCAA and all these lottery picks that come in. So Rhode Island's not afraid. And I think a big factor of that is the fact that they played this team last year in that early season tip-off challenge over at Mohegan Sun. So Rhode Island played Duke last year, so they're at least a little familiar, which helps. And it's good to see that these guys are not letting the March mystique and the Duke mystique rattle them, because they seem as calm and as confident as I've seen them all season.
So are we going to see a lot of roadie blue there tomorrow? Of course, it's going to be a sea of blue. It's both blue. What do we expect from roadie fans?
You're going to see a lot of Keene blue. The turnout for the Oklahoma game yesterday was nothing short of fantastic. Anytime Trae Young would hit a 3 in the first half, it wouldn't be that you'd hear the Oklahoma Sooner fans cheer. It'd be more that you hear the Rhode Island fans groan, because they outnumbered the Sooner fans by a pretty wide margin. So it was loud. It was a roadie home game without a doubt. And it was really the same thing last year in that first round versus Creighton, and then again with Oregon. You think Oregon being so much closer to Sacramento last year, that Oregon would have had a larger fan base. There was a lot of Keene blue that came out last year, and a lot more came out this year just because Pittsburgh was so close to Rhode Island. So it's nice to see that this fan base, besides just the team, that the fan base is making a turnaround. Because I'll be the one to say it, these Rhode Island fans at times in the past couple of seasons could be a little fair weather. If they lose that game like Fordham last year, then there were people calling for Dan Hurley's job. But now that they're the Rams are doing such a great job, a lot of people are coming out. A lot of people are coming out to support, and they know that this Rhode Island team is a special one. And this is if there's a team in the past couple of years for Rhode Island that could beat Duke. They've lost 4 straight to them, all the matchups they've ever had with Duke. But if there is a team that can do it on this 5th attempt, it's going to be this team. And
you're down there play-by-play with WRIU, but what's the word back on campus? Folks going to turn out, it's going to be at Keene, yeah? So they're going to show the game there? Yeah, they'll show the game all around campus. They'll have, it's tough because students are on spring break at this point, so there's not a lot of bodies on campus, but they do have these off-campus viewing parties at some of the local restaurants. But with all the friends that I've been texting back and forth with, it's everyone's just excited to be here, to have your team in the tournament after not making it since 1999. There was so many classes that came through the halls of URI that weren't able to experience something like this. So everybody back in Rhode Island, I think, is just enjoying it and having fun. And this is Dan Hurley's the first coach for the University of Rhode Island to win round of 64 games back-to-back in consecutive seasons. So it's uncharted territory for these Ram fans. You really don't know what to do with yourself. In the round of 32, so often, these last couple of years, you're watching other teams. You're looking at how your bracket's doing. You're not worried about these Rams because they've already gone home for the year. Now it's fun because you still have a dog and a horse in the race. So let's talk about the bigger bracket picture. Of course, you've been watching the other first-round games. Who are you keeping an eye on? Who's been, let's talk upsets. Let's talk about teams to watch. So now I just want utter mayhem. So I did a serious bracket this year, and my champion was Arizona. So obviously Arizona lost to Buffalo. You and Charles Barkley. Yeah, exactly. But I knew Buffalo was going to be a tough matchup for them because Buffalo played Rhode Island earlier in this season. They did an exhibition game, a hurricane relief charity game at the Ryan Center. And Nate Oates has done a fantastic job with that program. He was in the conversation for a couple of those bigger jobs that are opening up. Now after this win, beating who could potentially be the #1 pick in the NBA draft in DeAndre Ayton, he's on a totally different pedestal now. So Nate Oates did himself a lot of favors. So I'd like to see them go pretty far. Yeah. They're going to be a tough matchup for Kentucky tomorrow. Obviously, we saw Wichita State go down to Marshall. Keep an eye on New Mexico State. They have a good matchup coming up with Clemson. They won their conference. So New Mexico State, I have them in the Sweet 16. But once your bracket gets busted, at least from my perspective, you just want complete and total. I want to see some 2 seeds losing. I want to see a 1 seed go down for the first time. So at this point, I just want utter March Madness. You want mayhem. You and Barkley at Arizona winning. But of course, you both have URI over Duke tomorrow, 2:40 p.m. We will be tuning in if you want to listen to Ben Kinch, WRIU play-by-play senior at URI, has been giving us his insights and perspective as URI is now making its way to the second round in the NCAAs. Ben, appreciate you taking the time to Skype in.
Happy to do it.
Okay, we'll let you go.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, thanks. Ben Kinch, URI Senior Manager at WRIU and play-by-play, has been giving us his perspective here at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. URI versus Duke tomorrow, 2:40 p.m.